everybody. Before we start today's episode, I want to take a moment to tell you about something that has become a daily part of my own practice. Young You Organics White Sage Smudge Spray. Now, if you're like me and appreciate the benefits of energy cleansing but want a smoke-free alternative, this spray is perfect for you. It's made with white sage, clary sage, palo santo, rosemary, and lemongrass essential oils. It has added sea salt and blue apatite crystals, and it offers all the powerful cleansing properties and benefits of traditional smudging without the need for burning sage. It's quick, it's easy, it's portable, and it smells really good. Whether you're at home, in the car, or at work, this spray can help you clear out negative energy, reset your space, and create a calm and peaceful environment. I personally love using it all the time, and especially before recording these episodes to create a centered and grounded environment and condition in my body. So if you want to enhance your spiritual practice in a clean and convenient way, check out Young You Organics White Sage Smudge Spray on Amazon, and we will provide a link in the description for you to check this out. All right, let's get started on today's conversation.
All right, here we are for another episode, conversation of evolving the conversation. And here is my co-host, Melissa,
Hello.
uh, as always. And today we're going to talk about plant medicine sitting and perhaps maybe getting into what facilitation is. But first, we think it would be important to talk about what plant medicine is. We have a previous episode that you can refer to more in depth, but just a quick summary of what plant medicine is and what plant spirit medicine is. Melissa, could you take it away?
Sure. Yeah, so I think in our other episode, we actually didn't really talk about what plant medicine is, but it's just medicine that comes. I think it comes directly from the plant. You know, there are medicines that are derived from a plant. A lot of the modern day medicines that we use they come from the natural world. So they're like a derivative, right? They use like some ingredients or some part of the plant. But so the plant medicine is directly from the plant itself. I mean, it could be a tea or like a tincture or a poultice or you ingest the whole plant. And generally in the sitter course we're talking about psilocybin, mushrooms, cannabis. We've also learned how to sit for San Pedro and ayahuasca. And the plant spirit medicine is coming from a context that spirit is the underlying animating force of the universe, life in the universe. And so everything has a spirit, including the medicine that we're working with. And in the medicine, the sitter or the practitioner in plant spirit medicine helps to direct the spirit of the medicine in order to fulfill the intentions of the people who are taking the medicine.
I'm sorry, I do stand corrected. That episode was plant medicine or Western medicine and sort of the differences and similarities between them. We didn't
Yeah,
get
which I
too
don't
much in
think,
depth.
yeah, I don't think we actually really talked about like what plant medicine is. I guess I just kind of assumed that people know, but maybe that's like an assumption that is false, that most people don't know what plant medicine is.
Maybe not most people who are new to it, but I think most people that subscribe to our channel are pretty niche and in the know of what plant medicine is.
Right.
But this is for those, who are just stumbling upon and are interested in what plant medicine is. And Melissa did a great job articulating what plant spirit medicine is, as far as you have the plant and the plant spirit, and then you have the medicine spirit within the spirit of the plant itself, and then you have the practitioner who is a sitter or a facilitator or trained shaman, depending on what their practice is, who's guiding to the medicine. And there's varying degrees. Like the sitter we're about to get into, his primary role is just to set up a safe space and to be there for support and reduction harm and to coach you through the experience, but without actually ingesting whatever type of visionary plant medicine with you, be it, cannabis or psilocybin or any of the other two that were mentioned.
Yeah, and all those medicines, like you said, are visionary, so I think that's a good point. Like, not all plant medicine creates a visionary state. I mean, or also doesn't create like such a dramatic shift in the consciousness, right? It's probably like a much more subtle, like a non-psychoactive state.
Yeah, and so I think that's really where the importance of when you're inexperienced with this, or even if you are experienced with it and you wanted someone to be there with you, the importance of having someone there to sit with you, to, you know, um, create a space that's ultimately going to be in support of you, and by the end of the experience, you're going to have a positive outcome.
Maybe. I mean, I think it's overall positive, but I've certainly had experiences where like I left the ceremony, I'm like, never want to do that again.
What kept you coming back?
Well, because I know ultimately it's medicine and sometimes it's not an easy experience or one that I'd want to repeat.
Did you gain something positive from those experiences, looking back on it now?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I feel like the experiences that I've had with plant medicine have just helped in my, personal development, growth, learning, healing. So, yes. But
I
I
think
guess I
you,
just feel like to say, like, you'll have a positive experience.
well, positive doesn't always mean easy.
No, but I think when you say that, it could imply that for people.
Perhaps that's not what I meant, though. I just meant like, by the end of it, with someone who is really about the plant spirit medicine, there's going to be an improvement, and that's what the medicine is. Or there's going to be something that's alleviated. So when, in my experience with these different types of medicines, easy, no, but it's always worth it because I can look back on them and say, well, you know what, I improved a little bit. Oh, you know what, that, helped alleviate sadness and help me process it, and or anger or any of these types of afflicting emotions.
Yeah, sure. I suppose we could say that. I mean, sometimes things get worse before they get better. It's just the nature, I think, of healing. Things kind of get mm, disoriented before they have to reorient,
Mm.
or in order to reorient.
These are important things to bring up. I think this is really um, a reason why to have a sitter with you to, if you are going through a difficult experience within the visionary plant medicine ceremony itself, for that person to be there to support you and help you reorientate to something that is, not the disorientation or the confusion or what it is that you may be experiencing at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's important. I mean, I've certainly had a lot of ceremonies where I didn't leave the ceremony feeling better. and perhaps maybe felt worse for a period of time.
Hmm. It's interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, I know I'm not the only one. I'm not like well researched in this, but I've certainly seen, and this might also be people, I mean, I don't know who's taking it and how they're taking it, but I've seen, uh, I don't know, reports of people that have had trouble or difficulties after plant medicine experiences.
Mm. Can I ask you what sort of difficulties? And by you're under no pressure to
I mean, I think
share.
what happens, you mean for me,
Yeah,
what
what
have
were
my
you experiencing?
difficulties
What was
been?
what was the difficulties then after that ceremony?
I mean, it's hard to like really articulate at this point what they were. But there could be like, you see things differently, and then there's kind of like a disorientation, and then how do you go back to your regular life? So there's some kind of like almost like a mismatch. I mean, I remember experiencing this a very long time ago, like many, 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 many years ago, where you saw things a different way, but yet like you go back to your old life, where seemingly nothing has changed, but you've really changed your perception, but like yet you're still having to kind of like fit yourself back or somehow grow out of what was already in place for you. So, I mean, there is a lot, could be a lot of discomfort in there.
Oh, I agree. I agree. I've had similar experiences now that I'm thinking back on it. Actually, my first cannabis ceremony that was, actually a ceremony for it. I had this like memory awaken in me, and then um, it was like the snow globe got really shaken, and then for a while after that, I had to actually work at reorientating, but I kept working with the same practitioner, and over the years, they've helped me reorientate from that first experience, which was kind of wild. Now that I'm thinking back on it, it just leads me to even uh, a deeper understanding of the importance of, with these types of visionary plant medicines, the importance of who you're working with.
Yeah, I think the person that you're working with could offer a lot of support because while ultimately I think there's a lot to benefit, a lot of ways to benefit, it's not always something that you're left feeling like, oh, that was great. Sometimes, yeah, sometimes no. And then like we both attested to, there's a lot of kind of, I don't know, work or, like relationship realizations and then conversations to have or more emotions to process or habits to change. And those things don't always necessarily, leave you feeling good all the time.
No, no. I could agree in the short term, it might not have seemed, this is just in my, so I guess it's not even an agreement, but just more so of just like sharing my perspective. This isn't like about agreeing or disagreeing, but perhaps a similarity of where in the short term, looking back on that ceremony that I just was speaking about, how in the short term, it might not have seemed like an improvement, but in the long term, with that piece of the puzzle, among all the other ceremonies that I did, it's what led to that improvement over time. And so, just in my experience with it, just in that there was improvement there, even though it was a moment of a pretty deep shakeup.
Yeah, I think it's just important for people to know, like, you're not gonna leave the ceremony and be like, oh, everything's amazing. I mean, maybe you will.
You might,
You might,
but you
but
might
you
not.
also might not.
But that's what I was meaning though about improvement. I wasn't trying to imply like it's going to be rainbows and unicorns, even though it might. Even though it might. I don't want to say that it's not going to be, but it could be very intense. And yeah, and so that's where really the person who is sitting or facilitating, or if you have both in that ceremony, who can, help you and coach you through what's going on in the moment of that, like you said, very distinctive consciousness shift and perhaps disorientation of the um, plant that you're ingesting itself, because these different types of visionary plant medicines, they are in a way very disorientating, and
I don't I don't know. I mean, it's just like a language thing. I don't know if it's fair to say that the plants themselves are disorienting, or it's just the fact that the changing of state is disorienting to a person.
yeah, that's what I mean. It's like that changing of state can be very disorientating.
Yeah.
And so in the sitter course by the Blue Morpho Academy, in which we were both certified through, is really where we got our training to be able to sit for people. And I would say my training still is continuing with the sitting and facilitating. But I was thinking maybe we could go into the coursework itself a little bit and then perhaps our own experiences.
Sure. So I think one of the main things, like we've been talking about, is to help keep people safe so they can have an optimal experience. And that so the safety really starts um, with making sure that people are candidates for the medicine.
Yeah, that was something really big that I learned too of with this is like not everyone is a suitable um, candidate for the plant medicine itself. To like really screen out people and do so, um, I think really ethically. Like if someone's on some type of medication that is contraindicated with the visionary plant medicine themselves, to um, you're not the one weaning them off of the medication, but rather they have to go seek, the doctor that put them on the medication in the first place, and to see if it would be a good idea to wean them off. And if it is, then the medical expert then is the one who's actually doing that.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, being a sitter doesn't mean that you're an expert in any kinds of other medication. Just knowing the what is contraindicated for the medicine that you are not even providing, but the medicine that the person's coming to you to help create that safe space for them to use.
Yeah, and so screening is definitely something that is important that I learned in this course, and yeah, just sort of different formats of screening, and then like also, really what to be looking out for with each plant medicine and the potential participant in it to be able to tell whether they are the right candidate or not.
So like, can you explain that more?
Yeah, like, if someone's coming to you on SSRIs and they're wanting you to sit for them with ayahuasca, um, as a sitter, accepting that um, person to sit for would be probably malpractice.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah. And I I just thought that was really worth noting, and especially too, I think there will be probably like a lot of people who say that they're sitters for this, but or administrators of these medicine, but they're not even looking, for those types of things.
Yeah, I don't really know. I can't speak for anyone else's practice.
Hmm.
I don't
I
want to
can.
say what people.
I can. I'm not gonna name any names here. It's someone that nobody knows, but
Yeah, well, let's just move away from that.
Anyway, um, so yeah, and so what else with the sitter course would you think is important to mention that you learned with it?
So we're talking about creating safety and intake. So I think also just making sure that the environment is safe for the people.
Yeah, so the physical location itself.
Yeah, and that it is conducive to the experience. So perhaps a place where people won't be interrupted and there's not a lot of traffic or noise, foot traffic or like traffic in the place. Making sure that you're aware of what the safety procedures or protocols are in the or at the facility. Making sure that you're prepared to handle emergencies. I think all that falls under the safety category.
Yeah, so orientating the participant to sort of like the safety measures of the space itself, like what is acceptable conduct, what isn't acceptable conduct, and then the space itself being set up for comfort for this person who is then going through the experience so that they can, not have those things to be contending with alongside of perhaps a really intense visionary experience.
Yeah, that's a good point. Letting people know like what behaviors are expected of them.
Yeah, yeah. And if it's like a group, like what is, the code of conduct, with the individual and the group and then the whole group itself. Yeah.
I think too, also having the participants know kind of like the arc of their journey is important.
I think that's really important too. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, that's definitely important, I think, for all work, really, to let people know what they could expect. I mean, obviously within a as a framework of what to expect, but I think that's helpful for people.
Yeah, that's actually has been very helpful of the arc of the experience and framing it as onset, visionary, and then landing because it gives you that time frame of, you know, like where you're at in the experience itself.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think it just helps people to kind of like anchor into something that so they know what somewhat of what to expect versus just going in and having no concept or no idea.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I am understanding like the timeline of it as sort of that arc, and how I practice has been very useful and helpful to understanding the overall experience itself, and then sort of like what to expect at different times.
Yeah. Um, I think too in setting up the experience, it's not necessarily well, I guess the dose is part of making sure it's safe and also just optimal for the person.
Yeah, so the sitter is going to be, watching out for, safe dosages and making sure no one's, doing too much of any one thing. Um, yeah, and there were also some, some skills that were taught in the academy itself, or more so like explaining like you need to have these skills to be, an effective sitter, and then you learn these skills through the experience itself. But of like staying calm and centered through the experience as the sitter, and to be respectful of the participants in their experience and where they're coming from, no matter where they're coming from, really. And then, like you said too, providing a safe space and using grounding techniques to be able to help reorientate someone if they're going through a difficult experiences. And then also too, what I found really interesting was, thinking about having a plan when something could potentially go wrong.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, I think that's part of the safety is knowing what to do if there is an emergency and how you're going to do it.
Yeah, yeah. So that's something to certainly consider of like what could go wrong in the ceremony itself. And yeah, and just like sort of the guidelines of handling the participants with compassion and empathy and being open-minded towards what it is that they're bringing you.
Yeah, that's helpful for everybody. I think too, helping people know why they're using the medicine and what their intention is for the medicine.
Yeah, that's important for clarity and intention creating and knowing the whys of doing the ceremony itself. It's something that the sitter, coach, or facilitator can certainly help guide you along with. Yeah. Also, too, a sitter um, could be calling on helpful spirits, going back to the what we were talking about in the beginning of the plant spirit medicine practice of these different arts, or for lack of a better term, I guess. And um, like how to invoke them and understanding like there is no right or wrong, but to be very clear in the intent of, okay, this is for medicine. I'm intending to go into this experience with this person and really connect with the medicine spirits themselves of the plant and to guide them to that so that ultimately they could have that positive outcome. And yeah, I found it fascinating, like going through that and then knowing that I could call on like different types of spirits from mythologies as well, and different types of religion. I found that pretty useful as a tool to be able to use in these types of ceremonies.
Yeah. I think it's important also that people could take the medicine just because they're curious and it doesn't have to be like a healing necessarily or a medicinal experience. It could be like, I'm curious and I want to know, like, what is this plant medicine? I want to
It,
explore and I want to have a safe experience while I do it.
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I think that is a worthy intention as well of exploration. I think that's really where I started, is exploration, and then like, oh shit, I really need to heal some things.
Yeah, just exploring and learning.
Yeah, definitely. That is an equally as good of an intention as healing.
Yeah. I think too, the sitter could help the person prepare for the experience. So in certain medicines, there's maybe dietary restrictions or yeah, mostly dietary restrictions that you'd want to adhere to. That way the medicine works optimally and there aren't any challenges.
Yeah, that's a good point to mention too. So once the participant goes through the medical screening, they pass that, and then like for instance with ayahuasca, there being, a restriction in certain types of things that you can consume before a ceremony and still have a safe ceremony, or at least limit unpleasant reactions.
Yeah. I think also the sitter should have their own experience. That way they could understand what the somewhat everyone has their own experience and it's always going to be different, but that the way the sitter could somewhat understand what the participant is going through.
Yeah, so the sitter having experiential knowledge of the types of visionary plant medicine themselves so that, they can understand what that participant is going through, I think is something that is very important as well. And that's something that, we have been taught, to have our own experiential knowledge of it. And just full disclosure, I don't really have very much experience with ayahuasca or um, San Pedro, as far as the amount of times that I have taken it. However, I think I would still be open to sitting for someone in a proper setting for it. Maybe after a few more ceremonies, who knows? But the sitter, they're gonna know different types of things, like using the breath. Got our breath work expert in Melissa here. Could certainly help with that. And meditations. I also thought something too is positive affirmations. Um, Definitely want a sitter to know how to create positive affirmations if you need one in the moment, like I am safe and protected, or I am sane and I am safe, and or I trust the wisdom of my body and my intuition, and I'm surrounded by love and support. And really going back to in the point what we were talking about, where the sitter is just, guiding, helping reorientate the participant a little bit back to something that's grounded and positive rather than just, looping, spinning in negativity or whatever it is that they're going through that's creating a hard experience.
Yeah, that's a an important role.
What else did we learn here? What else did you learn, Melissa?
I don't know, I feel like that's probably not all of it, but I think those are the main things. I think having experience with your own medicine is important because then also you could help afterwards. Kind of how we were talking about, it's not always such a smooth reentry. That you could help be a support person afterwards to help people integrate the experience.
Hmm. I have here in my notebook what a sitter is certified to do. And this is just with the Blue Morpho Academy, just as a preference. But number one, sit for clients while they experience plant medicine. Two, support their pre, during, and after plant medicine experience. Three, support their integration. Four, manage emergencies. And then we have what a sitter is not allowed to do. Dose the client, provide medical advice or medical services, sell plant medicines where illegal, or represent yourself as a certified um, facilitator or master facilitator.
Mm. Yeah, so it sounds like we covered it all. So what's the difference then between a facilitator and a sitter?
The difference between a facilitator and a sitter, The main difference is that the facilitator is going to be ingesting the plant medicine with you and going into that experience with you.
Yeah, that's what I understand it to be. I suppose they have a lot more, not necessarily control, but uh, a role in guiding the experience versus the sitter. Perhaps you only intervene if the person taking the medicine is having a difficult time, whereas otherwise, maybe there is no intervention needed or guidance needed. You just kind of let the experience unfold for the person.
Yeah, yeah. Those would be the primary differences. Um, I have to go in depth more, but what about dosing?
What about dosing?
Um, I think perhaps I need to review my notes, but as far as facilitator dosing the individual,
I don't understand the question. What do you mean as far
does the
as?
facilitator dose the participant?
Oh, so another difference between a sitter and a facilitator is a sitter is not supposed to provide the medicine. The sitter, though, can help the participant with the dose to determine what a safe or what an effective dose would be, but the sitter does not provide the medicine. So as a facilitator, it's I mean the understanding is similar in that you are there as like the expert to know what dose is best, but you're actually providing the medication or the medicine for the ceremony. So you're essentially having the same role in terms of determining what the dose is or recommending. I suppose that the person who you're sitting for could determine they want more or less, which could happen as a facilitator also. So, I mean, that's the same. It's just a matter of who's actually providing the medicine, or the sitter does not provide it.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. I like if you're a sitter and somebody's like, I want to do 20 grams of mushrooms, you can you could be like, oh well, I'm not going to work with you if you're doing that, or
Yeah.
like that's definitely not a recommended dosage.
Yeah, well, I think in either role, you always have the right to say no. I mean, in any kind of client, I don't know, sitter, facilitator, therapist, whatever relationship, I don't, you could always say no. No one is, there's nothing that says you need to accept working with every single person that comes asking to you for help. I think though also it could be a discussion perhaps, right? Maybe like 10 grams isn't in this person's best interest if they've never done it before, but if they're like want to do three versus one, you could perhaps, feel it out for yourself. Use your intuition or your experience and your understanding of kind of what, not that 10 grams is unnecessarily unsafe, but it's just really not necessary for most people.
I remember part of the training too was, you know, o- work with people with what you're willing to dose yourself to.
Mm,
So, I mean, for me, just in the mushrooms themselves, I wouldn't be dosing people beyond two. I've never had an experience beyond that, and I don't know, two has always been like really strong for me.
yeah.
But other people, take 2 grams and you know, they say that's light.
Yeah, I mean, that could be an individual preference. In my understanding, when we're practicing, it's ideal, or I don't know, best practice to we only really need the minimal effective dose.
Yeah,
And
that's what
that's,
I work around.
yeah, so that's more so how I would offer it to people. But of course, if someone is like, no, I'd like to do a little bit more, I would have a discussion with them. It's not necessarily like a hard no.
Yeah, more so just feeling it out. Like,
Yeah,
why do you want to do that much?
yeah,
Yeah, see if it's in their best interest. And
yeah.
also, too, maybe Like if they have any other like who knows? Like if they have high blood pressure or whatever, like maybe that 10 grams might not be suited. It was really interesting. I've been wearing this Fitbit and I had a cannabis ceremony and my heart rate went way up, like way up, like 140. It said that I did like, I don't know, 15 minutes of exercise. I was just sitting in the chair, drumming or rattling.
Mm.
So I think that's something to uh, take into consideration, if you are facilitating or sitting with people, really how do these plant medicines affect the body? Because for me personally, I never really knew my heart rate would get that high in doing it. And then I did an experiment. I was like, okay, is it going to do it again? So I did it again. I wanted to know. But the thing is, it didn't do it, like it didn't shoot up that high. So was it the cannabis? Wasn't it? I think it definitely could have been, but it's still very interesting to note anyway.
Mm.
I'm interested to just keep wearing this thing during the plant medicine ceremonies and see where my heart rate's at.
Yeah, you'll have to report back.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting study.
You have any notes in there that you want to share?
I mean, I have a ton of them. I have a ton of them. But yeah, not necessarily right now. I think we're probably getting to that 45-minute mark.
Just about, I think.
Just about. And so perhaps we can leave off there and share our studies and what we've been learning further another time.
Sure, that works.
Okay, everyone, thanks for listening to, I think this is probably an educational episode. If you like what we had to say, give us a like, hit that subscribe button to support us, and share it if you know anyone else who's interested in these different types of plant medicine modalities and arts of healing. All right, everyone, thank you.
Bye.